What's good, team? Welcome to another Small James coding tutorial where today we're going to be looking at button effects and how we can build them using TailwindCSS. Here's a quick demo of the three buttons we're going to be building. Most simple is just a pretty straightforward hover scale opacity effect. The second one is a neat little underline effect, good for links and stuff like that. And then the third one is an awesome little border effect that just looks super sleek, great for just adding some spice to your projects to make them all that much cooler. And if you enjoy the video, please like and sub, super appreciate it. Let's get into it. So to begin this little endeavor, I'm going to start off in my code editor with a Vite project configured with Tailwind CSS. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, there's a link in the description that will walk you through that really quickly. And so that's going to give us the ability to come into here and just use Tailwind. I could go text green 400 and just say hello. And now we can see that if I save that, it shows up and the Tailwind styles are applied. So that is super groovy. Yeah, so check out the description for that information. And so we're going to start off by giving this a class of flex col min height screen. So it takes up the full screen, and then background slate 900. So we get a nice dark background. The next thing we're going to do is make 3 buttons. So we can just go like that, and we can just say click me, exclamation mark. And now we can duplicate that 3 times, and I can just come in here and just say text white to change the text color. And then finally I could say justify center, items, center, and gap 40 pixels. Gap 40, something like that. So now they're all nice and evenly spaced out on our little page. Actually, we can't see the bottom one, I noticed. So I might actually just quickly change that and change it to a padding top of 40. So now they're nice and visible. So we're going to start off with button number 1, and this is going to be the most easy one. And so we're going to start off by giving a border white, and a border solid. So just like that. And now we're going to have to add a padding X of maybe 8. So it's nice and big, and a padding Y of 3. So now we have that basic button shape, and we can see that it already has the cursor pointer, but if you wanted to use a div, you could add that cursor pointer effect just like that. Now for this particular button, what we want to have is that hover and rotate effect with a slight opacity decrease. And so what we can do is say duration 300 milliseconds for that particular effect, or any effect. And now we can say on hover and give a semicolon. And the first one we could do is opacity down to 50. So now when we hover, we get a nice decrease in opacity just like that. And I might actually make it a bit darker and just come all the way down to 30. So that in itself is a nice little effect, but one thing I like to add on to that, well, there's 2 things you could do. The first thing you could do is you could go scale 110. So now when you hover, it goes a bit bigger. But what I'm going to do is go rotate. And in here, we can go, I think actually rotate 30 should work. Nope. So we can instead do rotate 30 degrees. And so if you put it in the square brackets, that's just going to allow you to have a custom effect, just like that. Now, if you wanted to make it a negative, you could do that, and it should rotate the other way. And, if that's not your particular cup of tea, the other thing you could do is you could actually go for a scale down. So you could say 75, for example, and that's going to be 75%. Likewise, you could go 90 just to make it slightly less effective. So now you get that nice little hover effect. Now, for our second button, we're going to have a slightly different effect, but the one thing that will stay the same is that we're going to need a duration of 300, and we will need a cursor pointer on hover. So now when I hover, I get that little effect. We're also going to have to give it a style of relative, because we're going to be using an after effect to come over, and we're going to have to give it an overflow of hidden, so that way anything that extends outside of the realm of that button is opaque and not visible. Now to create an after effect, we're going to use the after tag, and our after effect is going to have a height of 1 and a width of the full. So we're going to have to use after semicolon width full. Now it's also going to have a bottom of 0, and it's also going to have an after right of 0. Now that's going to change in a minute, but we'll see how that works soon. Now currently we can't see anything, but we will be able to if I just give it a background of white and a position of absolute. So there we can see that little bar showing up. Now that's a bit thick, so I'm going to make it 1px and give it a custom width. And so now we have that nice little bottom element. However, the thing is that we don't want it there. We only want it to show up on hover. And so what we can actually do is change this to right full, and that's going to push it way off the side, and we'll be able to see that if I remove this overflow. So now we can see that it's there. And so the last thing we have to do is say on the hover of the element, we want the after to translate X full. And so now what happens is we get that effect. Now it's happening instantaneously, so we have to give the after a duration of 300. So now it gets that slow slide across, and then if we add that overflow hidden back in, it starts off as hidden, and then when we hover over, we get that neat little slider effect. And so that's great for a nav bar or any kind of like route linking, or just generally anything that you want the user to click on. Cute little effect. So the last one is the most complex, and for this one we're also going to have to give it a px of 8, a py of 3, and a position of relative. So the way that this one is going to work is we're going to have the before element being the top and the left border, and the after element being the bottom and the right border. And so we can start off in here by saying before absolute, we're going to say before width 2/3, before height 2/3. We're going to say before, because it's going to be the top left, we're going to say top of 0, before left 0. And so now if I just went before background white, we should see that element pop up there. But in this particular case, what we actually want to do is give it a border before border white, before border solid. So now that's a total border, which we actually don't want. And so we can become more specific by saying border top. And we can also say before border left, just like that. So that's the top and the left. Now we can copy all of these styles that we've done just here and duplicate them except for the after. So I can come in here and just select that one, and that one, and write after. And now I can change that to say right. I can change this to say bottom. We're going to have to change that to a border bottom, and we're going to have to change that to a border right. And so now we have a neat little button effect that with some minor animation. So we can add the minor animation using a hover effect. And so all that's going to happen is the after is going to have a width of full, and on hover, the after is going to have a height, after height full, just like that. And then we can duplicate that once again for the before effect. So now when I hover, it completes it. So the last thing we have to do is just add that duration effect. So now I can say before duration 300 and after duration 300. And now we just get that super cool little closing effect, and we have 3 excellent button effects that are just worth knowing to make your projects look that much sleeker. So once again, if you've liked the video, please like and sub, super appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.